Okay, Mike, you're very welcome. We're up and running. Welcome to the Time and Materials podcast. Great to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Kieran. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm good. I'm good. Can we talk about the Euros, or we just skip the Euros?
It doesn't really. It's one of them, isn't it? We live and learn from it. I give the whole company the day off whether we win, lose, or draw. So they were happy either way. But I think they needed it off because, judging by the semi-finals, they wouldn't have done any work. But yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? I think we did well to get there.
Yeah.
Roll on the World Cup now.
Yeah, I suppose for us, massive jealousy. I actually got to go to the last Euros in Paris, and having experienced what a lift it can give, and given the year everyone's had, we could have done with one of them here ourselves, but I was massive jealousy when I was seeing what was going on over there.
Yeah, I think that's the key element of the whole Euro situation, was that the whole country, the whole world had been in such a state. We needed a lift me up, and it was really good to see everyone coming together and celebrating as one. You know, we've got a team, a very mixed team in there, and we've got Liverpool fans, United fans, City fans. We got all sorts of different fans there, but everyone was one. We've even got a Newcastle fan in there as well, which is quite funny. But and everyone came together. It, not to go on too much about it, but it was a shame, if I'm honest, not just how it ended, but the backlash of it. I didn't understand it myself, but
yeah,
you're always gonna have a minority, aren't you?
Well, unfortunately, we do. We've got the obviously Premier League season kicking off soon, so that'll give us a focus. Who was your own team, Mike?
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah. So expectations, looking forward to the new season.
Yeah, I think that the signings are going to come through. I think you've got to trust Klopp. Look at what he did last season. He had a 7th and 8th choice centre back, one which was loan, and he still got us to third. And it was I'd like to see anyone lose all 4 of their main centre backs and do what he did. So you've got to love the man, but you've got to believe in him. His man management skills is absolutely fantastic. And I've just finished reading his book actually, and it's the way he gets into the minds of the players, but also his ruthlessness. It shows. So he's the man that I think a lot of teams would love in charge of their club. They might not admit it, but I certainly do.
I mean, I was doing a podcast recently around parallels between great sport and leaders and business, and how there's so much you can take from that. And I'm a massively passionate about sport myself, and I do look to a lot of great sport and managers and great captains. And I suppose I noticed there your 2021 finalist Service Industries Entrepreneur of the Year award. I mean, what power that are you similar into that? You've obviously been recognized as someone that's doing something right, I suppose, in your business career. Where does the passion come from? Where does that all stem from?
Okay, so I suppose it's better starting from the very beginning, really, with how Excel was born. I had a bit of a scare in August 2019. I was very stressed working with the business. I've been through a bit of a hardship with my wife. Not to go too deep into it, we'd unfortunately lost a baby. Her nan had passed away, and I had a bleed on my brain. And it all kind of came together, and I just remember lying there thinking, if anything would have happened to me right now, what would I have left my family? It's you've got to be in that situation to really, you've got to be at the lowest to understand that you've got to pull yourself out of it. And I went away and I said to my wife, look, I really believe I can build a business that would be successful and have a great team. And I toyed with the idea, and obviously it wasn't right, then it was, it wasn't right, then it wasn't. I had loads of ex-clients coming to me because I'd worked in this industry for quite a while. And I went to see a really good friend of mine in the October, a chap called Paul Cheatham-Carks. He's become a big business mentor to me. And I sat down with him and I showed him all the information and what I had to do. And he just looked at me and said, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm scared. He said, well, yeah, that's got to be the driving force. You've got to wake up with a fear. You've got to go to bed with it. You've got to drive. He said, you are going to be stressed. He said, but by the end of it, it'll be worth it. So January 2020, we launched in my back bedroom. It was literally me on my own. I had a broken desk. It literally had 3 legs and a broom holding the back of it up. And a good friend of mine, Paul Dykes, who's a very successful entrepreneur as well. I said to him, I just need a laptop. I had 12p in the bank. I didn't plan it very well, to be honest with you. He said, here's a laptop, you crack on. So I had a laptop, I had a whiteboard, I had my desk, and off we went. 2 weeks into starting the company, unfortunately, I lost my nan. She died very suddenly of a brain aneurysm. So you don't, what I learned straight away was you don't get any time off, you don't get sick pay, you don't get leave. It's all or nothing. You don't get that opportunity. And I think what I did was I threw myself so deep into work that it catapulted me in a way. By February, we had our first client on board, and then in March, we had two, and then going into April, I think we were due to have 4 or 5, and we were due to move into our new offices. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and the whole world stopped, and clients just said, we don't know how or when this is going to work. And you have to accept that. It's a very, very strange time for everyone. So I didn't get any funding. There was no furlough for us. There was no grants. We'd only set up a couple of months before. So I spoke to 2 clients in particular, and I just said, look, if I work with you completely free of charge, hopefully you'll give me a job at the end of it because I've got a family to think about, or you'll stay with us. As luck would have it, I managed to generate some leads, names, things whatever I could do for these companies. And luckily one of them is still with us now. When we moved into Pioneer House when did we move in now? We moved in May, back end of May 2020. So we're still in like a lockdown period, but I finally had the funds to move in. It was just me on my own in a little 2-person room. I remember thinking, what am I doing? This has just gone very quick. And then June, we took on our first member of staff. And then July, my sales and marketing director and business partner in recruitment, Mike, joined us. And from that moment on, we kind of had a solid foundation, and we went from a 2-person to a 4-person to a 6 to an 8. And we moved 5 or 6 times. And now when I look at the company, and we've just moved into our own building, which has the big telesales floor, which the photos will go up on LinkedIn very soon. But then upstairs in the building, we have our own breakout area. We've got a pool table in there, we've got couches, we've got a boardroom, we've got a meeting room, we've got a kitchen. So in the 18 months, we've kind of gone from a small entity. And I'll be completely honest and transparent with you, Kieran. We were met with some controversy at the time. It wasn't smooth sailing. We were met with all sorts about us as a business, tweets. It was people who didn't like it. But that drove me. That was like, oh, you're not going to like it. No one's going to like a competitor. Yeah. We're still the new kids on the block now, but I'd probably say we're the loudest as well. As you've probably seen, we're always on LinkedIn. We're always on there. I encourage all my team to push themselves personally. Not everyone's interested in the corporate. Our business does this, this, and this. People want to know about you. And I think that the Entrepreneur Finalist Award, which by the way, I'm absolutely flattered to be in. I'm in that final with some truly incredible businesses. And if I win it, I'd be amazed. I'd be flattered. But just to be there, to be recognized for doing something and to be doing what I love has been pretty amazing.
Tell us about the business then, Mike. What XLTM Group, there's a breakdown of companies that I'd love to dig into, get an understanding of the different segments of what's going on in there. But give us an overhaul of what the group is about.
Is this the XL Trade Group or XLTM Group? Okay, so I'll start with the kind of pinnacle of it, if you like, not the pinnacle, but the forefront, XLTM, which is telemarketing. So anybody that has a product or service that falls into construction or the built environment, we basically run telemarketing campaigns for them. And we work with large businesses, the likes of Dulux, and we work with smaller one-man bands that are trainers or motivational speakers based in London. But it's anyone really, screed flooring, resin flooring, roofing, flat roofing, pitched roofing.
So the example of that then, Mike, would be, I suppose, that in the sort of roofing example or the screeding example, if I wanted to target architects, for example, you guys would lead that campaign and get in front.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, we don't work. It's not Mike Dunn on behalf of Kieran Brennan Roofing. It's Joe Bloggs, and what we do is we create a pseudonym in the domain. So it's Joe Bloggs calling from Kieran Brennan Roofing. And what we do with you at the start is we sit down and we just discuss what your target audience would be. if you have a data source, if it's going to be ABI, Glenigan, or you don't have one, what's going to look, what the most important thing is what's an ROI for our client? What's their return on investment? Is it architects? Is it main contractors? Is it interior designers? Is it end users? Whatever's going to generate business or what's going to give them ROI, that's the most important thing. But one thing we're really passionate about here, and my team manager at Ellie is fantastic, is the quality aspect. Quality over quantity is always the most important thing. And we get people that ask us quite a lot, how many calls do you make in a day? We can give them an overall viewing. For me, I'm more about, well, would you rather have 1, 2 fantastic leads generated? Or would you rather have 5 or 6 and they might not be the best? Because we deal with, like I say, all sorts of people. We deal with roofers, flat floorers, steel erection. We've got a lot going on there.
And these, I suppose, the advantage of using someone like you guys is obviously we don't employ someone direct. That might be a full salary cost. And you guys, is it flexible in the approach and how you work with companies?
100%. Everyone's different. All sizes of businesses are different in the sense that, like I say, some of them are global companies, some are smaller companies. We need to find the balance. We work on a daily rate schedule. So the daily rate, it can fluctuate because obviously as we grow as a business, we need to make sure we're covering our costs, our overhead, what we're doing. And I'm obviously, the greatest respect, I'm not going to go into the daily costs because I'm probably sure 1 or 2 of my competitors will listen to this.
Yeah.
But we're always happy to discuss with people, what length of contract they're going to do. One thing we never ever look to do is try and tie someone into a long contract from the start. It doesn't work. People need to have proof in the pudding. So what we try and do is we always do a 2-month trial, 8 days a month for 2 months. Because we believe that 8 days is the right period of time to build, establish, convert the pipeline. Now, some companies want to do more. And if they do, that's fine. But we'll never try and force that on them. It's all about working with someone. We do a report process. So throughout the campaign, we report back to them and say, look, this is how many calls we've done. This is how many emails we've sent. This is how many leads have been generated, to give them an idea of the pipeline. If at any point during the campaign, it's simply not working, we will be honest and we'll push back and say, look, it might not be the right time of year. It might not be you. It might not be us. It's just something isn't quite going ahead because all clients are different. Some want results from day one. Some clients, they know the process. They've done this before and they go, it's fine. We know that an architectural practice isn't going to specify a product within a week. A security campaign might say, well, we need to be live on site. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we've got to explain that. We've got to get into the minds of these people and really say, look, this is how long it's going to take. From doing this over and over again, we understand that. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I would imagine that it is got to be a major partnership approach, because trying to understand what that company's message is, and then you sort of relaying that message out to potential clients is I'm sure is going to be huge, which was actually where I wanted to go with the second question. One of the other elements of the group would be trade studios, which focuses around branding. Is that something that you focus on first? If a company's branding is all wrong, their message is all wrong, is that something you try and help companies with before we go to market? How does that work?
So just to go back and explain that, we never ever start any campaign in the telemarketing without product and culture training. Now that might sound a little bit too corporate, but product training is the product or the service we're going to be talking about, and the culture is how the business sounds. How do you sound? What's your keywords? What's your unique selling points? What is it that you want us to sound like on the phone? We're going to be you, so we need to sound like you. So that's the kind of where we move forward. With regards to trade studios is a part of the business where we only work in construction again. But what we look to do is find out if a business wants to be rebranded, redesigned, if they need marketing materials. And it's been a process, a part of the company that hasn't really took off as much as I'd like to yet. But we've got other bits which I'm sure you're going to ask me about in a minute.
Yeah.
But Yeah, Trade Studios is a fantastic aspect of the company.
It's interesting, and when I talk about branding a lot of times on this particular podcast, like branding goes over the head of a lot of construction companies owners, as you know. Well, why is that important? I suppose, in your opinion, why is brand important to a construction company?
I think it's your identity. It's like the orange in our logo, for example, is orange because high vis jackets, and you get yellow and you get orange. Now, I don't think yellow would sit too well, whereas I think orange it's a nice color. It's a brand. It's a color. So when I was trying to think of the color, I had a very good friend say to me, "Why don't you come in? You had an orange high vis jacket on." He said, "Well, I'm in construction." I looked at him and thought, "Oh my god, that's right." I think that you've really branding is important because it's who you are as a business. It's so you can have the slogans, but if I was green, I wouldn't know where that would fit into construction, apart from saying it's maybe our carbon footprint. So our branding is orange, and I know certain other companies is blue or black or white because of security, and that's the name of the camera systems. It's all that sort of stuff, and I just think branding is a key element. My team manager, all my team say, I asked them the other week, I said, when you think about this business, what do you think about? And someone openly said orange. That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said fun. Someone said outgo. Fine. Yeah, everything in the business is orange, basically. All upstairs is going to be orange beanbags. And that colour, people now know hopefully when they listen to this, is it just because it's a nice fancy colour? It's because of we look at construction and we go, right, you've got yellow high vis, you've got orange high vis, but if you were going to wear one, which one would you prefer? In my mind, that's where I go. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I suppose when we think about branding, we think about brand, we think about design, we think about message. And I suppose when I think about that, a lot of the reasons that I think construction companies are missing out on in terms of opportunity is that branding can be used as a way to attract key talent. It can be a way to people to recognize who we are, what we stand for. And it was one of the other elements of what you do, which is a busy day-to-day schedule, is the recruitment side of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell us about Excel Recruitment Solutions. What's going on in there? What sort of problems are you solving? And tell us a little bit about that.
So my business partner in recruitment, Mike O'Connell, I've worked with Mike for quite a while. I'm quite lucky really because a lot of the team in here I've worked with for a number of years. We know each other well. Mike's background is recruitment quite heavily, and he's worked with some major clients in the past. And when he come to me at the back end of last year and said, look, because I'd mentioned to him recruitment was a part of the business I'd like to get into. I've had to dabble it in the past, but I've never been serious in it. But I know there's money to be made in recruitment. And he said, look, I know the industry very well. I can do a full plan for you. So off he went. And within our first 2 months of trading, we'd already placed a couple of clients. So we deal with white collar, high-end recruitment. We only do perm. We don't do any temporary because as a business, I'm sure any temp recruiters listening to this will say, yeah, it's a temporary recruitment can be a tough gig because you've got to, it's just the wages and everything that goes with it. And we're only new as well. But we've got a number of roles that we've managed to get in because a lot of our telemarketing clients will say, well, we're looking to recruit a new BDM. We know your industry, we know your business, so let us do it, and it works. It's just a flow of business constantly, So,
sorry, what challenges has COVID and Brexit thrown up to that particular element around the recruitment?
Recruitment, it hasn't, to be honest. And I know some people may listen to that and go, "You must have had one or two." I would actually say COVID helped us as a business. We were able to really show that we're not just talk. We are what we say we are, and our passion that came across in all of our clients was massive, and they've seen that. But I wouldn't say we've been massively affected by COVID. The only thing that really affected us was me not being able to get a grant because that would have saved me a lot of stress. But apart from that, no. Brexit, construction at the moment with Brexit, the timber prices are going through the roof. Spoke to a good friend of mine the other day, and he was like, timber's so expensive now. It's so high in price. And I think someone said a really good diagram the other day. There was timber 2020 was about 100 battens, 50 quid, say. And then the picture next to it was like Timber 2021, it was like 10 grand. So we can't just inflate prices because the smaller guys, not smaller, but you got your large main contractors, but then you got your smaller main contractors, your smaller contractors that need to win work. I spoke to a chap the other day and he said he went to Hughes Gray or something like that, I can't remember the exact place. And they said you can't have more than 6 bags of plaster, but this wagoner just picked up 200. And he said, well, that's more than I'm getting. Why? And I'm a customer here, so he had to fight his corner. But you can. I don't think it's anyone's fault, but I think there's pressure from all angles at the moment with Brexit.
Yeah, huge issues across the board. I mean, just like on the we could do, we have done podcasts just on that particular issue. I mean, we've heard stories. You know, we need 20 sheets of ply to finish a job, and the supplier said we can have 12. You know, like that's not going to do us, is it? You
No,
know,
I think it will be sorted. I think they'll
yeah,
have to sort it out because if construction stops, the economy will stop altogether. It was one of the only sectors that carried on the whole way through, which is why I think we did okay. You know, we there was no furlough pay here. We had to just carry on, and we didn't really notice any different apart from more Zoom and Teams calls being booked like this now. You know, more phone calls being arranged. But the clients were happy with that because they were still generating business during a very difficult time. Personally, Brexit, I'll speak openly and honestly, I don't get involved in it. I don't talk about it. I've got opinions, but I think that it's just when you bring that subject up in any capacity, you're just heading to such a dark place that no one wants to be in. And I tell the guys as well, don't bring it up to clients because it's not worth your time.
Tell us then about it. As if there wasn't enough going on there, there's also tradesman.co. What's going on there?
So I obviously come from a lead gen background in construction, quite a heavy one, and a heavy business development background as well. Go back to January, just before I lost my nan, I was trying to find some data, and I just couldn't get it. And I was trying keywords, my friend Paul Dykes, who lent me the laptop, was with me that night, and he said, "What are you trying to do?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to find this piece of data here that's quite niche." So we got a whiteboard on, and we started just jotting ideas down. And Paul, like I say, Paul's one of my best mates. He's been every month he rings me to see how I'm getting on. He was massive back behind Money Supermarket. It was called Daily Deal. So he's a good person. He's one of the best CTOs. He's one of the best people you can have on your corner. We started writing down ideas, and I said, look, what if we could find projects through hashtags? Because that's the modern day language now, is a hashtag. But what if anybody could find anybody through a keyword? So you could do like hashtag London, hashtag pitched roof, hashtag, and then architects could find a company that represented the CPD and someone had a CPD, and it almost will eliminate a level of telemarketing. And it's in its final stages now. It's due to be released very soon. We just got the marketing being done, but tradesman.co will change. I personally think and believe, like when I said about Excel, will change the way construction is done. Because as well as all that, there's the project management tool side of it. So say if you want a project here and you can invite other people in your organization to find it. And we've had it looked at, and people ask us about tradesmen all the time. We work with, what's tradesman? What's it doing? When we tell them, they go, when's that being released? Because I spend hours trying to find projects, and some of them are out of date, some of them aren't right. But what we're doing is we're giving the emphasis back to these people who've created a profile, and it's only right if you update it.
So is it a marketplace then, as in you've got your tradesmen on one side creating profiles of projects that they're working on, and then you've got people that need to or want to service them projects? Is that how it works?
Basically, yeah. So main contractors can use it so say if a main contractor, new commercial project, and they wanted to find roofers or they wanted to find floorers, but they didn't want to be bombarded with calls. They can literally release a search that will find what they're looking for in the area, and they can invite them to tender across, and vice versa. They can do that. So it cuts out a lot of the jargon that comes with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then once they've won that project, once they're working on that project, they're actually able to invite other team members over to join. So say you want a project and you want to invite John and Simon over, and you can invite them across, and you can upload pictures, and you can track it all the way through. It's a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
But I'm not prepared to rush it. And not be able to get the full 30.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, but
listen, I'm coming from a place of experience on that particular one. Launching a platform into construction industry, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. So,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
yeah. So, the first thing that comes to mind there, how do you manage all that? I mean, there's a lot going on there. How do you How do you prioritize? What gets the focus? How do you manage your time? I suppose a lot of people listen to this particular podcast, construction business owners, hectic day to day, right? And that sounds like they're trying to run maybe various projects. You've got a lot of projects going on. How do you manage all that?
I've always been a busy guy. I've never really laid back. I've always threw myself into work. It got me a nice reputation in sales and in construction. And I suppose with TM being where it is now, I've got people in roles I trust. One thing I can't stand is micromanagement. There's no point in me bringing on a head of business development and a team manager and a sales director if I'm going to sit there looking over them all day and trying to make sure they're doing the right things. That's what they're there to do. If it doesn't go right, we assess it, we look at it, we make it work. So that gives me time to come back a little bit and go, right, I've got the right people, the people I really trust, because I've been there. I've been micromanaged and I've had a boss breathing down my neck, and no one wants to be there. It doesn't work. It doesn't. People might disagree. That's just my opinion. I'm only a young entrepreneur, so I don't want to annoy anyone listening to this. But then that gives me time, as I say, to look at recruitment with my business partner, to look at tradesmen, and to look at trade studios, and to look at my own podcast, Due to Launch Constructorcast, and then the IT side. And what happens is, in the end, once you've got all the little pieces put in, it's a flow. And then you find people will come into somewhere in that gap, and they'll use us for telemarketing, recruitment, lead gen, and it's just a constant circle. Because why would you, if you've got everything under one roof, you haven't got to look elsewhere. But more importantly, if it's in your sector and it's a company that know what about construction, they know the difference between an architect and a quantity surveyor. No disrespect, by the way, there. I'm just saying that they're different people. They've got different priorities in the day-to-day workload. Why would they want to look elsewhere? So yes, it is tough and it is long days and it is long hours, but and I create every single day. My team laugh at me. I have a big to-do list every day, and I don't get distracted from it. Like this today was in my to-do list, and then after I've got my next meeting in my to-do list, and then I've got back to what I got to do there. It's just about prioritizing.
Yeah.
What can be done.
And it sounds like from what you're describing at the very start of the conversation that you've got something deep that's driving you as well, which is makes it a hell of a lot easier when you really understand why you're doing that.
Yeah,
makes it a bit easier.
I've got a little girl. She's 5 years old. She means absolutely everything to me, as everything would. And when that happened, like I said at the very start, it created a scared feeling of, well, if I go, it's as morbid as that sounds. I'm not a morbid person. Anyone will tell you I'm probably the biggest clown in the business. But what would I leave for? And I wanted to look back and go, my dad, he did a lot for charity. He did a lot for people that worked with him. We're looking to bring in a head of people and culture whose sole focus is just to give the team what they want. Because I haven't got the time. My time is very thin at the moment. But when I have, go on.
Sorry, there was sorry to cut across you on that. For the people and culture thing, I think is massive. And again, one of the things I feel like construction companies, not from an opportunity point of view, they miss out on is culture. Like a lot of the time, people think like you talk about your breakout room and your pool tables and orange bean bags. A lot of people miss and think that that's culture when it's absolutely not. It's something that you just touched on there, which straight away struck me. You're bringing in someone to define what culture means and basically making sure that people that are in their roles are happy on a day-to-day basis and growing them as a person, not pool tables, not bean bags. I can only commend you to that. I think it's brilliant. I really do. I just think people get really confused what culture actually means. It ain't bean bags, it ain't pool tables. It's a lot more and a lot deeper than that. It's about attracting people to your company that will want to be here, be happy and grow. Tell me, there's just another thing that came out there. So another project, the podcast. What's that going to be about?
So I had this vision when I set the company up of, and I'm sure anyone that has a product or service who may listen to this, and architects will listen to this, constantly get asked about CPDs and presenting their business to the specifiers. I want to make it. I was trying to create an environment where they can come to us, sit down with us, just for everyone's interest. We're going to have a bar upstairs. It's the XLTM Group bar. Have a really laid back chat and just talk about what your business does. Why is your product so great? Why should the architects use it? Give us a demonstration on a camera. You know, it's in my opinion, we're living in a world where construction's still quite far behind. And the amount of people that have said to me, it won't work. You can't do that. You can't bring the people and culture. It won't work. You can't bring a pocket. It won't work. But every time they say it and we do it, people are going, Jesus, man, okay, maybe there's something here. And I'm not saying we're an oracle. I'm far from it. We're just doing a basic job, but we're trying to glorify it. And that's what people may think from this.
Yeah.
So the podcast is really an opportunity for anybody to come in completely free of charge, meet the team, have a beer or a coffee, have a coke, whatever they want, and just talk about what the business does. Everyone wants to talk about what the business does, and it's a chance for them to really. We can then send that to architects or main contractors and say, look, we've done this podcast. I wanted to launch it last year. We did a couple, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel the same. I bought all the equipment for it, but with lockdowns and social distancing constantly coming into play, I just said to myself, well, why rush? We've got a lot going on. Why rush it? Let's get. So we've got a list of people here that want to do it, which is great. And they ask when's Constructor Cast ready? You could come in and do one now. It's fine. It's just not, I wouldn't say we're not ready now. We probably are ready now, but I've always had this vision of having a nice, chilled out background rather than a formal one.
Sitting around in a bar talking construction, two of my favourite things to do. So looking forward to the invite on that one.
Yeah, well, we are going to be having our office launch party on the start of September. We want to get everything in first, and we're going to invite clients, prospects, friends, family down. We're going to DJ in. We're going to really make a lot of noise. If you know us well enough, you will know we make a lot of noise when it comes to our social media pages, as I'm sure you've seen. But we don't really talk about what we do a lot. We just talk about ourselves. It works. People buy into that.
Yeah. Well, you've been great with your time, and we will link up the links back to a lot of stuff that we've been talking about here today. But if people want to reach out to you to understand a little bit more about them services, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can call. I'd always say call me direct, because my phone is normally attached to my hip. And I'm always on it. You can get in contact with me on 07946 767 634, or drop me an email to mike@xltmgroup.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You'll come down and see us. We're a fun company. I know a lot of people will say that, but we just enjoy having a laugh and working hard.
Well, continued success. Looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Cheers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care of yourself. See you soon.